Alrighty, soldiers. I know I'm wearing this shirt again like I just did, but in that video I did say it's my new favorite shirt and it's all I ever want to wear now, and I always keep my promises and make good on my threats, so here we are. I'm gonna say this right off the bat. The books I read in January 2022, entirely too gay. And I don't mean that in a derogatory manner. It's just that I, personally, am far too queer to be reading about all these super hot, competent people all at one time. Truly, I think it's a bit rude to the bisexual community, and I feel attacked. Today, I decided that I didn't want to be overly caffeinated while I made this video, so I was like, oh, I'll just drink some Coke instead. I'm completely forgetting about how much sugar there is in this. I also just filmed some TikToks where I stood and talked to the camera. And I feel like I'm just doing this in all of them. So if you see those later, I'm very sorry, but I'm on a sugar high right now. So yeah, like I said, I read a lot of queer shit in January and like, way to start the year off right. Basically, I had 2 mental breakdowns 2 weeks in a row, so I stress read a lot. And through that journey, I managed to read 9 whole books in this month, which is bananas. I also almost titled this video "The One Bed Trope Reigns Supreme" because whew, it is alive and well, let me tell you, friends. Also, a weird number of foot scenes. Not like a lot. It's like that TikTok sound. I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right? I have no idea how long this video is going to be, but I feel like if you're here for the wrap-ups, you're in for the long haul. So grab a drink, grab a snack, and buckle up, bestie. We're going to do my January 2022 reading wrap-up. The first book I finished this year is one that kind of set the tone for January, because when I finished this, I knew that I was in for a wild ride for the rest of the month, because Jade Fire Gold by June C.L. Tan was a bisexual masterpiece. Like, is everybody in this book hot? Oh my god. In this Chinese-inspired fantasy novel where magic is highly regulated and only used by certain priesthoods within the kingdom, we have Altan, a disgraced prince whose birthright was hijacked and his family murdered when he was a child, who is now seeking revenge to gain access back to the throne, and An, a girl from a backwater town who suddenly has the ability to drain people of their life forces. When the two of them accidentally meet, they start an alliance to bring down the current king and go on an adventure after this legendary sword that will gain Altan his birthright back. We have so many good classic tropes. We got the one bed, we got the travel companions, the magical mentor, and Altan's methods are a bit extreme, but like, he's dedicated, so we'll give him that. I thought June Tan handled balancing the humor and romance with those like bloody war aspects of overthrowing a kingdom really, really well. The middle was a little long, but it also was sort of necessary. It's really hard to cut out or cut down those like traveling training montages because they work a lot better in film than they do in books. So everything that she did right was necessary for the audience to watch, but it still felt like things took a little while. But I didn't even mind because Altan and An together are so grumpy and cute. I love their dynamics so much. Also, this book just reminds me how much I want to get another sword. Next up is one I got highly recommended by my book talk friend Kirsten at Choose Love Books, and that was The Witch King by H.E. Hedgeman. In the kingdom of Azalin, witches and fairies are mortal enemies, and this was supposed to be fixed by the fact that Emir, the crown prince of fairy, was marrying Wyatt, who was at the time a daughter of witches. However, Wyatt's magic got a little out of control and he fled to the human world where he realized he was transgender and had this whole new identity, but now fairy is more divided than ever, and Emir comes to the human world to drag Wyatt back and make him complete the marriage bond. And best friend Briar joins as we go into the fairy realm, and then politics. This book was interesting because usually I like getting thrown into the middle of action or kind of into the middle of a story and kind of figuring out what's going on or what just went on, but this felt like a sequel. Not in a bad way, just in the, I felt like there was supposed to be a first book, and I get what they were going for, but I didn't quite think the execution worked 100%. That being said, this magic is so cool. Whenever they cast, their hands and their eyes slowly turn a different color, so I think Wyatt turns black and Emir's turns gold. How freaking cool is that? There's a lot of liberal progressive politics in here about race and gender and body dysmorphia and relationships and arranged marriages and like biology that I felt was a little heavy-handed, but at the same time I thought it was really well written. There's also a lot of stuff about like children and biology that I felt a little uncomfortable with, but except for one singular time, everybody in here respects Wyatt's pronouns the entire book. This also did not portray a healthy relationship, so I better not see all y'all Tumblr shipping these people. All right, so something else I've been reading a lot more in the more recent months is romance novels, and after reading them, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, like I get why people like these now. These are fun and these are sweet and they are like so heartwarming. So one very queer romance that I just finished that I fell in love with is Love and Other Disasters by Anita Kelly. This was one of the Book of the Month books that I got from the December box, and oh man, I'm so happy that this came in the mail. This follows cooking show contestants Dahlia and London as they compete on the Chef's Special, this kind of reality TV cooking show to win a grand prize. And along the way, they fall in love and like talk about identity, and it's just so freaking cute. It's a cute cooking show rom-com with a non-binary love interest, and it's just so sweet, and I'm gonna cry. I also quite enjoy Dahlia's character because part of her struggle is that she feels like she messed up her first marriage because she doesn't want kids. And as somebody who also doesn't want kids, and that has come up as an issue in relationships before, I really like seeing that because I find so many rom-coms are, you know, they fall in love, they get married, they have kids. So it was nice to see that explored a little bit more and just be like, hey, this is a different kind of relationship you can have. The zingers in here are phenomenal. I love the reality show aspect. There is a bit of stuff about London being non-binary and the kind of the issues that comes up with, especially with the internet. And while their gender identity was a heavy plot line in this, it never felt like it was to be made a spectacle of. I've never watched reality shows or cooking shows, but like, if I'm gonna get a love like this, if I go to a reality cooking show, friggin' sign me up to Gordon Ramsay's whatever the hell kitchen, because I can bake pretty good brownies and I just learned how to make a really nice soup. So, you know, I can chop some sweet potatoes like the best of them. Okay, so this next book is a bit of an accident because I was sent this by Raincoast, thank you Raincoast, but apparently this book now comes out in March when I thought it came out in January. You're gonna have to wait a couple months. However, I can give it a glowing recommendation because Edgewood by Kristen Ciccarelli was a sweeping, beautiful, romantic, lovely, fairy lore-infused book of magic and memory and love and finding your own voice and deciding your own fate. This book draws you in and then sweeps you up, and from then on it's go, 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 like keep up, let's go, things are happening. Madeline is an up-and-coming singer-songwriter, but when she starts to sing, a mystical forest called the Edgewood starts to invade whatever space that she is singing in. So sometimes she'll find mushrooms in her guitars or moss beneath her feet when she's done her sets. She grew up with a grandfather who told her tales of the Edgewood, about leaving ties and locking your doors in the full moon, and when he goes missing from the nursing home that he's in, she figures the Edgewood took a tie that it was not meant to do, and so she goes to this magical forest to get her grandfather back. However, when she finds herself in the Wood King's court, she finds that he is actually under a curse himself. Together with a handsome tithe collector, she sets out on an adventure to break this curse and find what magic is holding the forest captive. Okay, so the magic in this is freaking phenomenal. This might be the best fairy king I have ever read. He has crescent moons for eyes, and his robes are made of water, and sometimes they're made of living butterflies, and his skin and veins are made of tree bark and moss. There are horses made of fire and trees that grow from human hearts. This is a really interesting mix of folklore and modern fairy tale retellings, and maybe a bit of gothic in there. There's a lot of themes of like lament and elegy, memory, forgetting. Also, this book is so romantic. Like, my heart is going in my chest and I am a melting mess while reading this. This is setting me up for unrealistic expectations of my eventual cursed poetry reading otherworldly beautiful tree lover, and I think that's a little unfair. We're switching to water because I've only been filming for like 20 minutes and I am sweaty. Like I mentioned earlier, I was going through some stressful times, and so I needed something to reread to give myself a little bit of mental comfort, and so I decided to reread Tith or Tithe or however the fuck you say that word. Tith by Holly Black. It was very fun to read about some OG fucked up fairy lore, where after coming across an injured fairy knight and helping him on his way, 16-year-old Kay finds out that she is actually a pixie and that she's been under a glamour for her whole life. And she accidentally gets herself put in the middle of a political battle between the Unseelie and Seelie courts, and one of her friends goes missing under the mountain and she has to go and get him back. This book is trailer park chic and metal band grunge, along with all of the beautiful things that make fairies so cruelly inhuman. Holly Black's Folk of Air Cruel Prince series became such a big thing over the last couple of years, characters, and don't get me wrong, I sure do love Cardin and Jude, but I love Kay and Royven so much. And you have never heard of Holly Black's other works, you gotta get on these. These are great. So yeah, this was great. I finished this in like a day. Ah, man, okay. So this is why I try and read as many books as I can in December of whatever year we're in, so that I can make sure to not forget or pass over really good books or books that I think are gonna be really good to put in my best of the year wrap up. And god damn it, I missed one, and I'm really mad at myself because if I had read The Midnight Girls before December of 2021, I would have included this in my best books of the year. This book frickin' slaps. Alicia Jasinka did The Dark Tide, which I wasn't a super fan of. I didn't even finish it. But The Midnight Girls, this hits so hard. It is sapphic, Russian-inspired folklore about two rival witches who are competing to literally steal a prince's heart. Alicia Jasinka knows the key to my heart because what is this on one of the very first pages? Boom, a pronunciation guide. Model Who's Read stamp of approval. This is a well-paced, slow burn enemies to lovers that really draws you in and has, yet again, some of the dopest magic that I have ever seen. Because when these witches do magic, they kind of transform into slightly more demonic versions of themselves. Like they have stronger bone structure and their eyes glow and like their hands grow claws and like go black all the way down the elbows. Oh, I don't know what about that aesthetic draws me in so much. But if a witch showed up at my door looking like that, without a doubt, I would go away with her. Man, I like to think of myself as a stone cold bitch, but apparently it's easier to get to my heart than I ever thought it was. Zosia and Marinka's dynamic is so good. You can never quite figure out who's gonna do what and who's gonna go back on what. And our Prince Yusuf actually is such a great character. I was not expecting him to be so dynamic and fun as he was, especially at the end scene with one of the big sword battles. Is like so fun and great, and I cannot wait to see how that dynamic of him with the witches evolves in the sequel. Fun action, shadow magic, sapphic rivals to lovers. There's really nothing in this book that I did not like. Okay, so the last of the physical books on this pile is one that I got bamboozled, and I'm mad at myself about it. When I picked up The Heart Principle by Helen Huang, which was also sent to me by Book of the Month, I was like, ooh, this must be a fun rom-com. The cover is pink, there's cartoon people, it can't possibly hurt me. And then you open it up and it's like, bam, trauma. Like, Anna, girly, you are stressing me out. Anna is a violinist who feels stuck in her career and with herself. And when her boyfriend asks for an open relationship, she decides to say, fuck you, and go on a date herself. And Kwan, who ends up being our tattooed motorcycle riding bad boy love interest, ends up being the sweetest guy that proves to both me and my conservative German grandparents that having tattoos does not mean that you belong in a gang or are a sailor or have been to prison. But Anna, like I think all of Helen Huang's main characters are, is autistic, and I really enjoyed reading from that perspective because the media has really given autism a bad rap and has really skewered the perception of what having autism is like. But I went into this expecting quirky, cute rom-com. Why is this book making me cry at work? Like, damn, we need some major trigger warnings for parental death and grief and caregiver burnout and autistic burnout. That all being said, I really did enjoy this book, and I would love to go read some of Helen Huang's other works, but this did put me in a bit of a funk for a day or two. All right, now we're gonna talk about two of the books that I finished off of the wild, wondrous world that is Kindle Unlimited. First up on this list is Captive by Wolves by by Eva Chase. Look, I'm sorry, but I just started a class on Roman art and grave goods from 300 BC to the fall of the Roman Empire, and like there's no extra room for memory up there right now. I got recommended this on TikTok, and this is the best way I can describe it is Wattpad kidnapping stories 2.0 if One Direction were werewolves who were also fairies and Harry Styles had blue hair. This is about a girl who was kidnapped by, we don't know, and they've been taking her blood because reasons, and then she one day gets broken out of this prison by 4 or 5 like sexy dudes with cool tattoos who end up being fairy werewolves. Werewolves? And then slowly but surely they nurse her back to health, even though she's like a scummy human, and then all of them fall in love with her. Wow, surprise. This book is baby's first reverse harem, and like, it wasn't that bad, but it was also just like, fine, I guess. This was pitched to me as like spicy or Akotar, which it absolutely is not. This is like a good beginner spice, like baby's first MMF kind of vibe. Like, it was ridiculous, but it was also kind of fun. Did I finish this in an afternoon? Yes. Will I be reading the sequel? Likely not. Okay, lastly is one that I am ridiculously excited about. If you've been around for even a small length of time, you will know that Hades and Persephone retellings are some of my favorite things to read, and it's so freaking hard to find a good one because a lot of them, I mean, there's a lot of kidnapping and a lot of like non-consensual stuff, and like I personally like my Hades and Persephone retellings to have Persephone in a position with a bit more autonomy. Also, the Hadeses of these books are very overly controlling and emotionally immature, and usually a bad combination of like Christian Satan figure mixed with OG Disney villain, and it never comes out quite right. But I have found a diamond in the rough. I am pulling, okay, this is gonna be a super niche joke. I am pulling a Plutus, which is a Roman god of wealth that Plutus and Pluton, the Romans retconned together into one god to like fit the description of the Greek Hades, because Rome liked to just like pretend that everyone else's gods were their gods. It's a long story, it's Roman history, we're not gonna go there today. Pomegranate by Nicole Scarano is one of the most original Hades and Persephone books that I have ever read. In her version, there was only ever the two great rulers of Zeus and Poseidon, and Hades just ended up being a mortal woman who the gods granted immortality to, and she was Zeus's lover. But when the gods decided that Olympus needed a queen and they chose Hera, Hades was banished by the council. However, it ends up that she, in her transformation, ends up being this prophesied dark god of the underworld that has unlocked Tartarus, and she sets to start revamping the underworld, but actually releases all of these spirits and dark god killers, along with falling in love with a farmer in a reverse Hades and Persephone retelling. Surprisingly sympathetic, and I love how it is a woman who is ruling Hades. It's not quite, but almost a villain origin story. So it's like, Hades is like, she starts off as a pretty good, innocent character, but slowly she starts realizing how to use her power to manipulate the people. Okay, you're not like a good person, but like you're definitely not the villain, especially after being treated so shitty by like the rest of the gods. It's a very interesting moral and ethical dilemma to watch her rule. That being said, this doesn't have the greatest writing. It actually switched back and forth in tenses a little bit, and that kind of threw me. And the writing is very dramatic, but then again, it's the Greek underworld, so like, I'll let them have it. Also, Hades goes from damsel in understandable distress to like dark goddess girl boss in like 2 minutes, which in those circumstances I don't think would happen. Also, you get 3/4 of the way through and it's like, surprise, there's body horror. But other than that, I think this is one of the best retellings that I have ever read, because it switches things up, it turns things on its head, and incorporates all of those original stories. I thought this was really, really cool. So there is my wrap up for January 2022, which I can't believe January is already over, but like, time doesn't exist anymore. Time is a slinky, time is a circle. We are forever going forward in time towards our approaching mortality. Also, if you read a lot or you only read a couple, do not feel pressured to like have suddenly read 18 books over the first month of the new year. Like, I find that's a big thing on TikTok where I'm like, how do people have the time to read like 3 books a day, basically? This is ridiculous. I have a full-time job and go to school. Like, what the fuck? And watch me read like 2 books next month. Like, right now, it's just prep. Like, I'm just getting ahead for when I inevitably go into a reading slump at some point this year. Please leave down below what books you have read in January, and if you've read any of the same ones that I have. I feel like over Christmas and now in January, I'm kind of catching up on some stuff that has been on my TBR list, and it feels good. It feels good to see the empty gaps in that shelf. Once again, I feel like I should do a longer outro, and my voice is not having it, so we're gonna wrap this up. You know where to click to like video, you know where to click to subscribe. I hope you guys are all having a nice day wherever you are, and I will see you all next week. Bye!